Hi everyone, Eric Rodobois, EPGD Attorneys at Law. So I started watching this amazing show on Netflix. It's called Cobra Kai. If you guys don't know, I'm a kid of the 80s. The Karate Kid was the best movie ever. And so this show picks up 30 years later or so, and it follows the lives of the main protagonist. Okay, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but there is a part in the show where the guy has the dojo, right, called Cobra Kai. It's what the show's all about. And what ends up happening is he doesn't have a written lease. So, you know, one thing leads to another, and one of the bad guys ends up making a side deal with the landlord and ends up stealing the lease from him. Now, obviously, this is just television, but as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my goodness, what a great example of why it's so important to have things in writing. So listen, let's think about it. So he goes and he's looking for a place, a business, right? He's going to run a business, and it's a karate business. It's kind of like any sort of gym that you join. You get gym membership fees, you get monthly dues, you're probably running a lot of credit cards, there's some paperwork involved, and so you need a place. And obviously there's going to be licenses, you got to get it approved by the city. Typically there's going to be health and sanitation issues, but the big picture here is you're going to end up negotiating with the landlord, okay? And at the end of that negotiation, you're gonna want a lease. And what does that really mean? It means that if I'm gonna invest in upgrading the place, I'm gonna paint the walls, I'm maybe gonna have to do some work to improve the sanitation, I'm gonna apply for licenses and permits, I'm gonna get them all approved, and then I'm going to go out there and advertise, and a lot of businesses, especially what we call brick and mortar businesses, location matters. Location, location, location. Because maybe it's really convenient for the people that live around it, but if he were to, for example, a couple years in, have to move locations, and all of a sudden he's on the other side of town, he might lose some students. So, or you know, members, I guess it is another way of calling it. So after all of that, what I'm going to want from my landlord is I'm going to want some sort of guarantee. Now, what do I mean by guarantee? I want to know how long, right? So I can plan my business. So the normal is 5 years, right? And a lot of times you might even do 10 years. Or maybe 5 years with an option for another 5 years, or whatever it is. I want to know how long, right? So that I can plan building my business. Because I'm not going to invest in all those permits and all the improvements and painting and the signage and all that stuff and the marketing and the advertising if I'm going to get kicked out on short notice, okay? So number one, how long? Number two, what's my rent? There's another part in the show where the landlord just jacks up the rent because Daniel LaRusso, his enemy at this point in the show, convinces the landlord that the property is undervalued, and he does it really just to be spiteful because he's trying to mess with the guy. And so, again, the landlord walks in and goes, hey, I'm raising your rent. If he had a written lease, that wouldn't be a problem. Okay? Then number three is in this penultimate episode when the bad guy says, ha ha ha, I stole the place from you, I made a deal with the landlord, you could say, no, that's not happening. Because frankly, I'm going to sue everyone and I'm going to win because I have a written lease. Because that's what it really is. A written lease is a contract. It's just a contract for access and use of some sort of real estate. And so I'm going to take that contract, plainly written, hopefully with an attorney's fee clause and a dispute resolution language, and I'm going to go down to the courthouse and the judge is going to take 2 seconds to look at it and say, yeah, no, you can't raise the rent just randomly, you can't kick the guy out randomly, and you can't change the party that's going to be owning or having the lease. These are obviously just the basics, and you're going to want a lot more in a good lease. Some things that we might want to look at is who's going to be responsible if there's a roof leak. What if there's a special assessment for retarring the parking lot? What about the HVAC, right? Because the show takes place in Southern California. I imagine it gets hot there. I know it does here in Miami. And so if for whatever reason it gets really hot and you know we have to replace the air conditioning unit, who's on the hook for it? So guys, listen, if you're running a business and you need a physical place, make sure you're working with a good lawyer and don't do it on just a handshake, okay? Get it in writing.